Hi everybody, welcome to Jam Week. We're here with some women from Dambuster Games to have a roundtable discussion about women in the games industry and game design and various other topics, maybe, depending on what we decide to touch on. So I'm going to give them all a chance to talk in a second, but first I'd like to let you know who they are. We've got Abbie Willets, who's a system designer at Dambuster with a decade of industry experience working as an animator and game designer. She's worked on BAFTA award-winning Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and was awarded MCV's 30 Under 30 award in 2019 for her work on Hitman 2. Elizabeth Baird is a junior level designer and WIGJ ambassador at Dambuster Studios, where she builds and iterates on gameplay spaces and quests. Elizabeth joined level design in June 2025 after 2 years as a QA technician and tester, working on Dead Island 2 alongside its two DLCs, Haus and SOLA. And Lydia is a narrative designer with 8 years experience writing and designing for games. From AAA to indie, oh, I've really done that badly. From AAA to indie. She's currently associate lead narrative designer at Dambuster Studios, working on the next chapter in the Dead Island saga, which is the acceptable phrase.
Yes,
that we've got. Like,
absolutely.
I'd noticed that yesterday we also had next chapter in the Dead Island saga multiple times.
That is what we're supposed to say.
Okay, cool. I'd like to thank you guys all for coming in today. And first of all, if you all just want to introduce who you are and explain what your primary role is at the moment in your own words, maybe left to right. Start with Lydia.
Sure. So I'm Lydia. I'm associate lead narrative designer. So that means I'm on the narrative design team. So we work out the story of the game, but also how it integrates with the gameplay and everything else. So it's a lot of figuring out characters and quest work and scripts, so all that kind of stuff you would expect. And also working very closely with our other designers who are represented here. And I'm associate lead, so that also means I get to manage people and have to figure out a lot of the production side as well and how we're going to fit everything in the time we have and be efficient while also making the best product possible, basically.
Lovely. Abbie?
Yeah, so I'm Abbie and I'm a systems games designer. So my role is essentially becoming the core of the planet. Systems design is kind of hard to explain, but we're the core that everything else builds on. If the core of the product is not very good and the underlying game mechanics and systems don't work together, then the game won't be fun. So it would be entirely my fault if the whole thing falls apart. So it's really important that our systems holistically speak to each other and interact and integrate with the whole game in an exciting way in order to create engaging gameplay experiences.
I'm Liz. I'm a junior level designer. I started in June last year, so it's still quite recent. And I focus on a bit of a mixture of world level design and quest level design. So it means that building up like the spaces in the world and how the player might interact with that, and you know, the different systems that you'll find. So like a lot of the time it'll be hub design, but also looking at quests, you know, what beats are there, what pacing is there. And that's a role that has a lot of collaboration with narrative. So yeah, a bit of a mixture. But
Awesome. That's excellent. So it would be really helpful if you could all explain, for the students mainly, what the path you took was to get to where you are. Like, did you go to university? When did you start studying those skills? That kind of thing. Same order? I think same order. I'm going to go same order.
Consistency here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I did go to university and I didn't study anything specifically to do with games. I just knew I liked writing. So, you know, narrative design kind of has two elements. There's the writing element and there's the design element. And I very much came from a writing background. So I studied English and philosophy, which is kind of a career, you know, leads to a career path that my mum was just dreading that I would never ever have a job. But luckily, I just kind of fell into marketing and copywriting, which is what a lot of people do. And then I was just kind of very lucky that I managed to get a kind of small role in games initially. And then I've just kind of grown from there. So it was a narrative design role, but it was on a mobile game, which is very different from like a big AAA game, which we work on. But there's lots of different types of games out there that you can work on. So that's what I worked on first. And then, yeah, I've just kind of grown over the years. And now, like I said, I'm at associate lead level. So that brings a different skill set. But that was basically how I did it. And I mean, the one thing, I'm sure we'll get to this, but I would just say, like, don't don't feel like you have to just follow a set trajectory, because I just kind of came about it in a roundabout way, and I think that's what most people do, and that's totally fine. You don't just have to have an end goal and just focusing on it from the start. That's not how it goes sometimes.
Excellent. Abbie?
Yeah, so I almost had a roundabout career as well. So I didn't really know that game development was really an option for me. We're talking like 15 years ago now, with so much more visibility on the games industry and actually having a real career in the UK for that. So when I found out when I was around 15 years old that there were game design courses at colleges, I was like, oh, this is actually something I could do. But I really didn't know where I wanted to go in games. So I decided, okay, if I do a generalist course, I can kind of do a little bit of everything and see what I like. So I decided, okay, animation was pretty good. I'm terrible at math. I do want to be a game designer, but not yet. I want to specialize in one thing that I know that I can do and I can get really good at. So I went to Bournemouth University, studied computer animation arts, and then essentially just specialized in the stuff that I thought would be helpful to move into games. So I really focused on things like motion capture and performance art stuff and integrating animation within the Unreal Engine, making sure that my reel was catered towards a game's perspective, even though I did animation. Then I moved it completely like sidetracked, left-turned, and went and worked for MTV for a little while as a compliance officer. So I had to censor music videos, which was a job that we can talk about another day. But after that, I managed to get an internship at Sumo Digital almost 10 years ago now as an animator. And then when the time was right and I built those relationships with the people and understood the job from the ground level, I saw an opportunity within the studio to sidestep, then sidestepped into game design, and then flew up the ranks. Now I'm at Dambuster as a systems designer. So you can really tackle it from any angle you want, really. It's
awesome.
Very exciting.
That's great. And Liz?
Sure, yeah. I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do at first. I thought I wanted to do art, so I studied game art at college, and that was more of a 2D course. We did have some 3D elements, but at that time I absolutely hated it. So after college, I decided, I really enjoy 2D, but I think it's more of a hobby for me, and I'd like to try something a bit more technical. So I studied games production at NTU, which was more of a general course, and in that I ended up actually liking 3D a bit, and I thought, I kind of want to see where this goes, and I built up a portfolio for that. And after uni, I was applying for jobs, but I found whenever I tried to work on my portfolio, I just didn't feel like as passionate as I thought I should, and I wasn't able to put the same amount of time in that I knew like my peers were putting in. And I applied for one level design job, and I thought, I didn't know too much about what level design was, and ended up getting to like one of the final stages. So I'd like done a test at this stage, and I thought, this is actually something that's really fun, but I've put so much time into exploring 3D that I wasn't quite ready to pivot. So it was at that stage that I was like really torn. Like I enjoy level design, but I also enjoy 3D, and I needed a bit more time. But I knew QA would be something that I would enjoy, and that I thought, I'd be pretty all right at that. I'm good at breaking stuff. So, so I applied for Dambuster and started as a QA tester, and that was through some of the final stages of Deadline 2. And yeah, I worked on that, and it's 2 DLCs, and I think I got like a good grasp of what QA is. And then I got to a stage where I was like, doing 3D on the side as commission, and just realizing again, it's just something that I want to carry on as a hobby and perhaps not as a career. And that's when I really started to delve into like level design and like reading blogs and like jumping back into Unreal. And once like I'd built a portfolio for that, I thought, all right, I'm ready, I'm going to apply. And yeah, that's kind of where we are today.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So you guys, was Dead Island made in Unreal?
Yes.
Is it? I wasn't sure. I try and keep track of what games are made in Unreal because the students use it, but like there's so many now that it feels borderline impossible to kind of keep a good handle on what's what.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the Unreal Engine is that it's free to download and produce games in and release until you're making an extortionate amount of money. So there's no excuse not to learn it. There's so many resources online available, and a really thriving developer community that are out there to help each other, even outside of studios. Like, it's quite impressive to see how collaborative the industry is, even outside of your like initial bubble. Really, it's really exciting. And
Yeah, I was saying yesterday, I think it's strange that more software packages don't adopt that model, like, because Maya doesn't have like an easy pipeline to get into it. If you don't go to university, you've got no way of getting access to, well, I mean, obviously maybe your parents are really rich, but outside of that, like, because I know that when I was finishing uni, I was using 3ds Max, and I looked at it and I was all like, guess I'm gonna have to learn Blender because, but I could just carry on using Unreal because of the model that it operates under. Right, so I think that I've got some questions about women in the games industry because that's kind of the title of the panel. I don't want to be all like, what's it like being women all the time? But I do think that it's really important for the students. Like, we've seen growth in the number of female students we have on games courses in the last few years, but like, it's still at the educational level and at the professional level male dominated, and obviously that's something that I think there are a lot of people who are very invested in trying to change, but what I've found, my experience has been that it's been very tough to like get the recruitment in the first place. But I guess, so I've got some questions surrounding that. So first of all, if you guys just want to answer in whatever order, shout out. Do you feel that representations of women in games have improved in recent years? Because I know that obviously when feminist frequency was first kind of like a big talking point, there was, it was really bad. And I think that there's been a lot of people trying to improve it. From your perspective as somebody working in the industry, do you guys feel that that has improved at all over recent years?
I think it's changed a lot, right? I think because there's so many more women in games now, like obviously there's still progress to be made. I think we would say like equally, ideally it would be like close to 50-50 parity to like, you know, represent women and men and people who are non-binary in games as well. But I think because you're seeing more women working on games now, like you said, in the past 10-15 years particularly, I think you are starting to see representations of women and people who aren't just buff dudes in games. Really, it is changing. You're just seeing a broader depth and breadth of types of characters, I would say, especially player characters, which is probably the most important thing, because you can meet loads of characters during a game, but I think it's it can really feel especially empowering for people that don't see themselves or aren't able to play as someone who's more like them. So I think it has got better because, yeah, there's a lot of women in games pushing for it now and just being like, you know, I want to see something a bit different, and that's good, right?
Yeah, there's some great male advocacy as well. Like everybody, Dambuster at least, is always extremely pro equality, and it's just a really good work environment for us to be in, and they allow us to succeed and thrive. And even Dambuster have these initiatives where they're highlighting the great work that we're doing, and across the publisher as well, Play On, they're, you know, encouraging all of us to work together and share our resources and really kind of build a bond between the different studios as well, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it was something I was a little bit worried about when I was at university, because I think only 5% of the course were women. And, you know, I think actually, like, after starting Dambuster, I've seen, like, more women join the industry, and that's great. And I think it is also, like, about making that safe work environment, which I think is quite strong at Dambuster. So, yeah, it's definitely getting better, and I think it's getting better now that, you know, it's not as male dominated. Like, I don't think it gives that impression as much anymore at like an educational level. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think it's always weird, like what things become like, oh, that one's for men, that one's for women, because it's so arbitrary. Like the original computer coders were all women because it was at a time when men were all, I don't know, making things out of metal. I don't know, but I do think it's odd, like that you end up with these spaces where people are all like loath to be part of them if they're not from the whatever dominant group, and especially because the creative industry's like, a lot of them have loads of space for women, in fact, like, but games has been historically really bad for that. Do you guys have any advice for younger women who are looking to get into the games industry?
You just got to stick it out and go for it. Like, simple as that. Like, this, you know, sometimes times are hard, but like, I feel like it's my duty to be a part of the industry now to make it better for like you guys that want to join the games industry in the future, and I want to advocate for your you know, your rights and equality and safety within the games industry, and keep pushing for that. And as you know, historically you hear of women leaving the games industry with as an average of 5 years. I've been here for 10, and I want that to continue, and I want that number to get bigger and bigger. And I want to work with people that are studying now in the future, and teaching them everything that I've learned over the years as well, which is something that's really driving me, and it's really exciting to think about for the future.
I think also it's just about like not letting that thought of you can't creep into your head. I think, you know, if people say that you can't do it, like just don't listen to them. And, you know, it's just important to just tell yourself like, I can do it. And it is something that's like an option for me as well. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the well-known phenomenon that women, and I think just people that are more introverted or not sure of themselves, will tend to not apply for jobs until they meet 100% of the requirements, whereas other people will just go, oh, I'm halfway there, that's probably about right, and they'll go for the things. And I think you just have to say like, I'm close to that, I think I can do that, and that's it. Like, push yourself, like believe you can do it, and you're as worthy of a shot as anyone else. That's it. Like, don't listen to that voice in your head. We all have it. But like you do have the ability, and something that's like, yeah, like you were just saying, Abbie, like for me it's also like it's very important that we see women or people who aren't men in higher positions of authority in the industry, and that's like I think the next hurdle to come, because it's getting better, but still traditionally the higher you go up in a company, it's still mostly men. So that's part of why like it's important to me that I'm an associate lead, that I think, you know, you see people in positions of leadership that are women. I think that's really critical. So that was like, again, something for me just to be like, don't tell myself I can't do it, give it a shot, try and do it and see what happens.
And when you think about the names that people recognise from the industry, like there's like Amy Hennig and stuff, and Jade Raymond, but there's not. Like there's still more men in those powerful positions at the top, the Neil Druckmanns and whatever, who are getting assumedly more and more opportunities. But also, I suppose, when they drive the projects, then that trickles down and means that every layer of it. So it is really important, like, to have women in those positions, and hopefully there can be more of them. Also because, like, I don't know, as a man, what I've always found is that, like, I don't know how people bear playing games where everything looks exactly the same. Like, whenever I watch a trailer and I'm all like, hey, it's not a buff white dude, I'm all like, this is immediately like, hey, something slightly different. But yeah, like...
Yeah, well, something weird happened in AAA games, I guess, over it's getting a bit better now, but I think in the last 10 years maybe, where, yeah, they all started to look really similar. Yeah. And it's like, this is literally a box of imagination and dreams. You can make anything in a game. And why were we all making the same thing? I think, like, you know, diversity has become a dirty word at times, but it's like diversity of people in the studio leads to more diverse, more interesting games. And that's just good for everybody. Like, we should all aim for that.
Well, it's like you can also see that when all the men in charge of the games companies had kids, and suddenly there was just like sad dad games everywhere. And it's like, it's obviously being driven by all the men in charge getting to a certain age and being all like, well, this is what I'm thinking about now. But it would be really nice to see, you know, some other stories.
Sad mum games.
Yeah.
Let's make that thing.
some nice sad mum games would be lovely. Do you guys think that depictions of women in games has like a wider impact on how women are treated in society now? Because obviously games are really, really big and prevalent now. We have these discussions. But also, like, the way that women are depicted in games, do you think that has an impact on how women are treated in the industry professionally and in spaces where gamers are?
There's a lot of stronger female protagonists, and even like more inclusive, like same-sex relationships, and putting women as a spotlight has been really nice. It's one of these things that's just nice to see evolved over time. It's nice to see that we've moved away from the triangle boobs of Lara Croft.
Iconic as they were.
As iconic as they were, they are iconic. They could poke eyes out with them. But it's really nice to see real stories with real human emotion coming from really strong characters, and it's just a testament to the diversity of the people that are working on those games now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think as well, like, a lot of games will try and imitate real-world examples that they've seen, but if you're only ever imitating the negative depictions of women, then that's not great, and, you know, it kind of sets a bad precedent. So it's nice that we're starting to see these like strong female leads in games as well. Yeah.
It's such an interesting question because, like, yes, I think obviously depictions of women impact how women get treated, and especially in the industry. But like, games are not divorced from the rest of the world. Like, they're a cultural object, just like anything else, like movies, like books. So it's a really interesting but complex question because, you know, the reason why we've had difficulty with how women are represented in games is because we have difficulty in how women are treated in society as a whole. And it's like definitely, I think we come from the angle of like, what can we do in games? But obviously there's many other broader issues, and I think it's almost like you have to tackle them all together. You can't just obviously like treat games as a separate thing by itself. So that means yes, but it's obviously not easy.
It's more a symptom of the horrible patriarchal society than the cause of it.
I guess so, yeah.
But yeah, I do think I wanted to ask all of you, like, are there any games that you've played where you've been like, hey, this depiction of women is really speaking to me in a way that they don't know? Because obviously I assume, again, with like, you know, the Lara Croft era, like that's a female character, but it's not a character who's for women. Like, she was obviously primarily designed to appeal to...
Lara's a great example because I think it kind of comes back around, and like, I personally find Lara Croft incredibly empowering, and I love Lara Croft. So like, it's an interesting thing of like, I think people can reclaim things, can like take them and be like, actually remove these parts that don't work. Like, and also I think there was a time when we were seeing more like female-led stories, and they were able. So for example, the remakes of Lara Croft, when it was like, she's vulnerable and young, that was cool, but also I just wanted badass Lara back. So there's like an interesting tension, I think. Everyone wants something different, right? We just want diversity of women's stories, I would say.
Yeah, I really liked Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I thought that was a great female-led story. There's just great chemistry and emotion and connection between the characters that, you know, kind of transcends, and, you know, you're not really thinking about it being necessarily a woman-led story, right? I think it's really exciting. But like, on the opposite end of the spectrum, like I adore Persona 5. Persona 5 is like my favorite game, and there are several story arcs within that game that really, the whole theme of the game, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but the whole theme of the game is addressing society and the injustices of society. And there's a really, really prevalent story arc at the very start of the game with one of the characters named Ann, and she goes through absolutely awful things. But as the game progresses afterwards, you see how she changes and grows because of the awful things that happen to her, and then becomes that empowering person who then wants to empower others. And I think it's really powerful.
The one that comes to mind for me is, like, I know you can pick who you want to play, but like Fable 2, because it doesn't hold back, you know, like there's beats that you're strong and you're built, and it treats, no matter which option you pick, the same. And, you know, I think that was really cool. And for such an early game as well, it was nice to have that choice and to kind of feel seen. Whereas I think, you know, other games I've seen a lot, maybe with one of the Baldur's Gates, like one of the early ones, where it's just one female character and then like just guys after that. And so if you're playing it in co-op, you know, you're playing it with like your friend who's girl, one of you has to play like the human guy. And like, you know, for me, it's about that choice. I really love that side of things.
Arguing over who gets to be the girl.
Well, her reason was like, oh, well, you know, the female character uses magic, so it's complicated, so I need to play them. And I was just like constantly stuck playing the guy. So
punchy man.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Another example that was just jumping to mind when everyone was talking was I think sometimes the examples where it's almost like nothing is made of it. It's just like, this is the character.
Yeah.
So the first Portal, obviously incredible game. You're playing as Chell, and nothing ever says, by the way, Chell is a woman. Did you note? You just sometimes you see your reflection or yourself in the portal.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm playing a woman, amazing, and they never comment on it, and it's just incredible. It's like a nothing, because of course you can play as a woman. That blew my mind when I was younger.
Yeah, and I suppose that maybe a good type of representation is not being all like, hey, you're a woman.
Yeah.
This is about being a
Yeah.
woman, because then in its own way that is kind of like just pigeonholing female characters. Like, men's stories don't have to be about being men.
It's just about them as a character, and that's what we want for any good character. Yeah.
And I suppose with other forms of representation as well, like there's way less like impetus on white characters to have an experience that's about being white than there is for
100%,
black
yes,
or other
yes.
racial characters. Yeah, I think it is interesting that there's like kind of like there's these options available, but sometimes just not making it the center of the story is important.
Well,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, carry on. No, please, no. This is you're the important one. Go.
I was going to say, Studio gave me such a good example of this, and I'm so grateful I grew up with it because, like you say, it doesn't kind of make that a big part of it, and it's just so natural, and it's something that I only realised maybe like over the last few years. I was like, so many of the leads are girls or women, and that's great. Like as a young girl, like growing up, to see that, you know.
I think it's almost all of them, isn't it?
Pretty much,
Like,
yeah.
and you don't see Miyazaki in interviews being all like, they have to have stories about being women. Like, it's just, I don't recall him ever really mentioning it in any of the documentaries I've seen about him.
Yeah.
So we've got some questions from the students. Lewis would like to know which of the projects you guys have worked on you're most proud of.
Yeah, sure, I'll go. I loved my experience working on the Hitman series. There was just something about it. I mean, there's always first project magic, but there was some real magic when working on that game. Like the technology was interesting and weird. Everything was bespoke, but the thing is that I had so much creative freedom that I never imagined I would ever have, especially for a first project. And as an intern at the time, I got to animate all kinds of crazy stuff and have the ability to be like, hey, you know, it would be really cool if we like slam this guy's head down and then turn him into a brick when he comes out the other side. Like that sounds really cool. Like, and they'd be like, yeah, let's do the thing. And we made the thing. But there was some really cool stuff that, like, because of like the whole IO Square split in the middle of the project, then we had, you know, I wanted to support the fans that really cared about the franchise because we made it out the other end, right? So the blood money sequence in the finale level, that was something that I put in at the weekend. Don't work weekends. And like, you know, it showed the big bosses at IO and they're like, yeah, let's keep that in. And it was really cool. And it obviously functioned as well in the game to help move all the NPCs in the correct place for the funeral. But it was just like a little like nod to the people for kind of believing in the project. And at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, I know that it's always the journey and not the destination, but the destination is sweet. Like getting people playing your games is like the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Like I love watching people speedrun and break the games I've worked on. I love like on Christmas Day, like seeing a bunch of people on the internet say, hey, I got Sackboy Big Adventure for Christmas and I played it with my kids all day on Christmas Day. And there's nothing more humbling than people spending such an important day for so many people on something that you put love and craft and sweat and blood into. And it's so cool. Like that should drive you is having that kind of intimate relationship with your piece of art, right? Like that's the most amazing thing about games is that unlike a passive media like television, players have their own experiences and bring their own life into your project and get different things out of it. And that perspective is what makes video games so cool.
Yeah. It's really interesting to hear actually that IO is a place where there's quite a lot of like opportunity to have creative solutions to things, especially because that's the kind of games they build. So like it's funny. And also it's so good that they survived. Like, so when a publisher gets rid of studios, it's so rare that they get to continue. So yeah.
I would say, I don't have too many because I'm still quite late early on, but like, honestly, Dead Island 2 was great. I remember feeling just so proud of us all. And, you know, it, like you said, Abbie, it was cool to see all the kind of comments coming in on Reddit and like watching like people play it on Twitch on the side. And, you know, I kind of came in like 6 months before release. So I saw like how it was quite late on, and I think it was like sort of still that hype, like everyone knew it was coming, everyone was excited about it to come out. And yeah, I just remember it being like a really exciting time in the studio. So, and I think as well, because like I had graduated like the year before, that's quite a short amount of time to have a game credit. So I was like really proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I suppose most, like it can take years to get a credit, can't it? And
It can, yeah.
and then people get jobs and they work on things that get cancelled, and then they never get to have anything. So it must be really nice.
Yeah. Well, I think because a lot of games will have like a 4 or 5 year production cycle at least, and you know, if you have to get cancelled or you move, like it can be a while. Like,
Yeah.
still have like my university group, and we have a few people that are like soon, soon that one. So
It's coming.
yeah.
I would echo what Liz just said. Like, I think Dead Island 2 was, it was really special when it came out, and we felt like when the reviews came in, that is an incredible feeling of just like, oh my god, people are kind of understanding it and getting why it's cool. And because that game had been through development hell, like not with us but with other studios, I think it was. That was quite a unique experience of like getting it across the finishing line. Felt like we were really proud to be able to do that and feel like we'd finally kind of put it in a place where it was playable and it was fun.
Because it was at Sumo before, wasn't it?
It had jumped
Yes,
around quite a few times, yeah. So yeah, it was a real badge of honour to be like we were the studio that got it over the finish
Actually
line.
finished
Yes,
it.
yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess this one's probably mainly for Lydia because it's a characters question. But do you have any favourite characters that you've created?
Oh, okay. I mean, I'll just give created. Okay, I'll give one that I wrote for. So I wrote one of the player characters, Carla, in Dead Island 2, and she was a really fun character to write. She's the kind of character that she kind of doesn't have a filter, which is very fun to write. She'll just kind of say what she's thinking, like a really exciting, enthusiastic, like action-filled character. So she was great to write for. A character that I kind of came up with was we had a couple of expansions on Dead Island 2, and one of them, the second one, which was called Sola, it was set like in a music festival, and we needed like a main central character, so I was working on that, and I was the narrative owner on that DLC, which was, again, another thing very proud of, but very like stressful and like a lot going on. So that was
All on you.
not quite so much, but I was the one who was supposed to be like owning it and pushing the narrative and getting that across the line. But anyway, yeah, so there was a character, Grace, who we came up with that was like the main, basically the extra character that we developed for that DLC. And yeah, ended up really being proud of her in the end and wrote the character, then casted the actor, and then directed them in the booth. That's just an incredible feeling, having an actor read your lines. So if there's anything to get into the industry for, it's that. It's amazing.
Yeah. Is the experience of working on a DLC any different to working on the main game? I assume it's shorter, but like, is there more freedom or anything as designers?
I would say it's pretty much the same thing, but like you say, it's just really condensed. So we had a year on each of the DLCs, but they were also concurrent. So there was crossover, and different parts of the studio would be working on different bits. But yeah, it's basically, it's a really good learning experience actually, because I think it's a whole game, but just condensed down, and you get the full process from pre-production to execution and making it and polishing it and putting it out there, but just in such a short time scale that I think it forces you to really understand your processes and your timelines and exactly how much work you've got and how you're going to do it. So that's what I found anyway.
Yeah, I think some of the junior level designers were saying, because they started around the start, I think, of Sola, and they said it just had to learn quick. And that's great, because you're kind of having to do lots of things, like learn lots of things in such a short amount of time, but also I imagine it could have been quite stressful, because like, I think for the QA side, we were on it a lot quicker, and we were, logging things a lot quicker. But I think it's great if you kind of do that after a game, because you know kind of what you're doing. Like, it's all very fresh, so it's like, okay, let's do what we did there, but very, very quickly. So yeah.
I haven't worked on any, so that's a short answer for you.
So did you go straight onto the new Secret Mystery project when?
Yes, I basically started 2 weeks before the wrap party. So I got to meet everyone at the wrap party, and enjoy, pretend I did some work, and then start on the new projects.
So were you hired in specifically for the next project?
Yes.
Then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Dambuster go through many cycles of like hiring and like, because I know that in some bigger studios they have like, they staff up towards the end of a game and then they let a lot of people go and then they hire again as the project goes on. But like, obviously all the people we've spoken to at Dambuster have been there through a project transition, but I guess that might not be representative.
I'd say Dambuster's really good in that it tries to not overhire and then have to get rid of people. Generally, I think it's pretty not necessarily like conservative, but also I would say a little bit conservative in that some studios really balloon, and then that's why we've seen quite a lot of layoffs, I think, in the last few years, because studios have overgrown, and that's not the approach at Dambuster. I think it's more slow and steady, which I think is a good approach.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
We also seem to hire like when things are a little bit quieter as well, because it's important to be able to like, you know, train new staff and give them that time to onboard, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it kind of depends on the department, but it seems like we're always kind of hiring for something. Yeah.
And you survived through, because I assume they lay off QA to some degree at the end of a project.
Yeah, we did have some temp positions, and I started as a temp position, and then afterwards went on to be a technician after 2 years. So sometimes studios will have temp positions that they'll either like you'll move on to become permanent, or you know, they'll cycle down.
Well, it's really nice that they're looking for skills that you have and that there's opportunities to transfer. And
yeah, well, I think as well, like for me, it's about the transparency. I think a lot of studios will hire folks in as permanent and then let them go, and that sucks. So I appreciated that they did say, you know, this is a temp position, and I think Playground have a similar system, but I think that's more like for developers as well, like outside of QA.
yeah. Yeah, give me the next question. I don't like that one. So during your job and in development, what are the most and least fun parts of what you're doing?
Endless amounts of documentation is just like, it's just, oh, I spent a year writing documentation. After a year of writing documentation at a different studio, you do burn out on writing documentation. I love tuning and balancing. Like, that's just like the bread. I know it's the bread and butter of what you're supposed to be doing, but like actually playing the product and feeling it and understanding it and becoming intimate with it is really cool. And like, your impact is going to impact everyone. So you have to be so mindful and holistically thinking of everything that you could, especially as a systems designer, everything that a small change could have big consequences. So you have to be super mindful, and yeah, like tuning and balancing, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, I would say it's a delicate balance of like how many things you've got to do. So like if you've got maybe just 1 or 2 tasks that you need to do, then that can feel a bit tedious, and you can get into like a bit of a state of churning. But if you've got too many things, then you start to feel like, well, I can't fully get into something. So, but I mean, like I say, like I'm kind of between World and Quest, but for me, like anything Quest related that you can like fully get into, that's really enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Like, documentation is such a big part of narrative design and most kinds of design. It's like really critical. But you know, the thing with games is they're constantly changing, so you're like constantly having to update, which is really important. But yes, even people who spend their days writing words constantly get a little bit tired of writing words constantly. So that can be a bit much. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm the same answer really. Like, the iterative process is the joy. It's just everyone's focus is like, play it, okay, what could be a little bit better? Let's make it a little bit better. Okay, play it again. And you just repeat that for a long time. And eventually you get to a point where it is good. And also, like, yeah, play testing and getting feedback is really great, because I think it's just that drive to be like, you know, we want to hear the hard stuff. Like, even if it's not good feedback, that's what you want, because then you're like, okay, great, I can actually address this and I can actually make it better. So I think just getting the honest feedback is, is great.
Sorry, I've got something in my eye.
It's emotional, I know.
I'm not being a man who's like, I can't cry. I would cry if I needed to. I've literally. I think it's probably really encouraging for the students to hear that I'm fighting to get them to do some paperwork, and even people who are working in industry are also like, hey, I hate doing paperwork.
It's a necessary thing. Like, it's not the most fun, but it really helps make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
So you got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that alignment is so critical. And then being able to also point back at the things that you've promised that you want to do is also really helpful as someone with a terrible memory like me. So, you know, they're like, oh, is this how this design's supposed to work? Yes, yes, it is. So it's very helpful even for you, especially when you end up owning a lot of features. Like our systems design team is really tiny. It's just me, one other guy, and a lead. So we're kind of like touching all areas of the game and thinking about all kinds of things and having to jump from wildly different subjects from one another. So having that amount of documentation that's going through like a process and pipeline and being reviewed by multiple people from different disciplines is really important for that alignment and just for clarity and to make sure that, you know, you're aiming for the right thing. And it also helps with things like scope creep, because everyone's guilty of scope creep. Like everybody loves adding just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, trust me, I think we can all admit that we always want to just put a little bit more in.
Yeah.
But it's but that's also part of the fun. But yeah, definitely write your documentation. I know it's boring, but it's a necessary evil.
Do you? Oh, sorry, no, carry on.
I say I think it's a big part of communication as well. Like I think when people think of communication, they think it's being able to talk to someone and sort of say what your ideas are, but it is also, you know, how you present it. So in level design, if we're working on something, it's important that we can go to the high level documentation that you've done and be able to see that, so I don't have to message you or come up to you like every day, and then that kind of takes away your time. So yeah, it's really good for that as well.
Does working on games make it less enjoyable to play games?
Sometimes, yes.
Depends on what you're working
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been quite lucky and I've really liked playing all of the games that I've made. But I've had a council project which is like a genre that I don't like, and you just have to kind of think about it from the perspective of people that do like it, which is also a really good experiment to do as well. Like working on a project for something that you don't like makes you understand how it operates a lot better, and understanding why those conventions are fun for certain people can make you a better game designer, because then you can objectively and critically analyze something really well. It's a good thought exercise.
Yeah, I think it depends as well, like on the person, and sometimes even like what role you're in. Like I know a lot of people will not want to work on the kind of games that they would play outside of work, because for them they won't be able to enjoy them as much, whereas other people don't mind. And like for me in QA, I didn't want to necessarily like test the kind of game that I would want to play outside of work. But now in level design, I don't mind as much. Like I'm fine, like I'm happy either way. So yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be like aware of fatigue as well. And you know, like when you are playing games, if you are wanting to do level design, it's kind of important to analyze those games and break down like what works, what maybe isn't working as great. But don't let it ruin games for yourself. Like actually play them to enjoy them and let yourself get into like a flow state. I think that's like the key bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to like not just stay in your comfort zone. Like whenever you're trying to learn more about an art, like games, you should play things that are different to learn from them. So yeah, I mean, I try to play games that are really different to what we work on, not just because like I'm like, I just need something fresh that's not like too similar to work or it feels like work, but also like, you know, I like playing games like RTSs or 4X games because the way they treat narrative is so vastly different to like a narrative game, but there's still narrative design going on. So that's like a nice, refreshing palette cleanser, and I can learn something new. I think it's just important to play lots of different kinds of games, yeah.
There was a question I liked a minute ago, Ricky. Scroll back up. I enjoyed that. There was one I wanted to ask. No, before that. So if you guys could work on any franchise or at any studio, what would you choose?
I've been eyeing up the Fable recently. I don't know if you can tell, like with Fable 2, but yeah, it's such a rich world.
Are they not hiring now? Could you not run over them?
I mean, I enjoy what I do too, but like, yeah, it just, I love how, I guess I love how the world seems like it will be affected by player choice. And to be honest, I think it's just the whole like sort of fantasy kind of genre that like those are the kind of games I enjoy, you know, outside of work. So I just think it looks awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge Nintendo girly, so I would love to work. I would love to. The thing is like, do you want to look behind the curtain of your favorite thing? You know, it's like, I love Super Mario. I'm a ride or die. Like, I will defend Mario Sunshine even when I'm a ghost, right? But the thing is, it's just like, I would love to learn the principles and practices that they go under in order to perfect that game feel. Because game feel in Nintendo games is just second to none. And I just want to, even if I could get like 20% as close to the way that they can get, then I would be the happiest game designer in the world. It's just, there's just a magic about those sorts of products that just are timeless and exciting, and they make you feel like there's a magic, like, and that playfulness. I think that's the thing, is Nintendo capture playfulness the best because video games were supposed to be a toy, right? You were buying NESs and Toys R Us because the Nintendo Entertainment System was a toy. It was marketed as a toy, not as an entertainment giant, you know, that we are now. And I feel like a little bit of that is kind of lost as the medium has transferred over time. So going back to the roots and learning from those curators from day dot would be like an absolute dream come true for me.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how well Astrobot did, because like it is like, there's clearly still a big market for things that are toys and that are fun and that work for all ages and that people can play with kids and stuff. But like, it seems like outside of Nintendo, it's very rare for AAA studios to really go into that area. Also, Sunshine's great. I play Sunshine at the start of every summer. It's wonderful.
You do the same as me.
Yeah, like it's part of the reason I bought the Switch port and was all like, no, I hate it. I have to connect the GameCube again. I'm going to play it properly.
Same.
What about you, Lydia?
I'll flip the question on its head a little bit. I think when you start out in games, sometimes you're like, oh, I've got a dream game or a dream project. But I think when you're actually in games, you realise the project is less important than you thought it was, and it's the team around you that is actually the really critical thing. Because like you kind of say, Abbie, like you can love any project and you'll learn to find what's really cool about it and what you're passionate about. But like the critical thing is who you're making it with and if you can work well with them and if you work as a team. But also my actual answer is like Dragon Age or Mass Effect 15 years ago, which no longer exists. That's what I'd love to work on.
You know, what you say is absolutely correct, because when I started at Sumo, I knew that they were working on the Sonic racing game, and that would have been an absolute dream project for me to work on. And they're like, you're working on HITMAN. I'm like, sure, I'm working on HITMAN. And now I absolutely would like, oh, that team and those people and that project mean more to me now than I could ever imagine. And I will play every Hitman game that ever comes out now and like love and respect all the effort that the team did, and seeing how it will change over time is as exciting as well. And like now, you know, like I'm a diehard fan. I mean, it's just really cool. You do end up getting very attached to projects, so you've got to be careful. You've got to be a bit careful when you get attached, but it's very exciting.
I think that's the thing as well, like with interviews, is like not getting disheartened if you don't get it, because it is a bit of like a first date. Like you're seeing if, you know, not only are you right for the studio, but is the studio right for you? And sometimes you just go in and you just don't click. You don't feel like, you know, that energy for it. So yeah, I think the team's a big point.
It is nice that you all like the place you work so much, especially from what I've heard in the gaming industry. Like,
I love working at Dambuster. It's great. I work with amazing people that make me smile every day, and I've learned so much since I've started here, and have great support, and I give great support to those around me as well. So it's just a really great place to work. I love it.
Yeah, and the artists yesterday and Dan Fairchild, who we had last year, have all, like, everybody's been so positive about it. It's really great for the students that there's a game studio in Nottingham, but it's also really great that there's one that seems like it's actually a nice place to work. Here we've got the obligatory how do you feel about AI question.
I've got an answer for this, right?
Are you angry?
No, I want to just say, like, the thing is like, AI is here to stay, right? Like, it's a thing, people are investing billions and billions into it. And just like the games industry in '95, when they moved from 2D to 3D, that huge shift in mindset and development practices is going to happen again. The games industry is a changing industry. If you think about the last 50 years of game development, it's always been changing and evolving. And you have to adapt that mindset no matter when you join the industry. You have to be willing for change and iteration. But the thing is, you're not doing it on your own. You're doing it with a team of people that are also in the same boat as you. You're all in it together. And so the thing is that you'll just adapt AI to work with you in the same way that your team does.
Yeah, I would say AI is a tool, and we're designers, and we know if you don't know why or how you're using that tool, it's going to fail instantly. So just like anything else, why are you using it, what are you doing with it, and understand that it's something at your disposal. That's okay, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also like, you know, the studio, their attitude towards it. I think it's a bit of a red flag if a studio is like all for generative AI, just because it's like they're not as much going about the quality. I think a big limitation is with it is it's not as iterative. You can't go in and edit this file. So like say for 2D, you know, you can't go in and like edit the files with as much fidelity as maybe you would want to. But as a tool, I think, you know, you can use it. So like say you were going through reference images and you needed just ones for like different road markings or something. It would be great. That would save you a lot of time. But yeah, I think it's just something that's kind of coming in. So we're working with it, yeah.
That's what I was kind of saying. Like, the AI doesn't know why it's doing the thing it's doing. Like, unless you can filter what it's giving you or figure out what the purpose is, it's just like a really enthusiastic assistant that doesn't really know what it's doing. Like, you need to be guiding it and being like, no, AI, this is why. Anyway, yeah.
It's like having a really enthusiastic child there trying to help you.
Like, okay, but like temper that and like understand that it's trying, but you're going to need to help it a lot. This is currently, I think, where it's at.
So I guess for the students, the answer is slightly less negative than yesterday. I don't like that one either. Ricky, next. I'm sorry. I feel like I should be able to scroll through these. So as people who work in a AAA studio, do you have any ideas about what it would be like to work in an indie? Have any of you worked in indie studios, or would you like to?
I've worked with indie studios, but not like in one.
Yeah, I mean, we were co-collaborators with IO. Obviously, IO are a AA studio. They're more AAA now, but we worked as a small team of around just under 30 as the Sumo collaboration part on the HITMAN franchise. And it's definitely a very different atmosphere. Like I said, I had a lot of creative control, and you end up having more hats than you would necessarily expect. But it's also a really good learning and growth experience, whereas in AAA, you're kind of like a small cog in a big machine. That creative control is like, it depends on like what discipline you're in, depends on how much influence you would have. But it just depends on like, if you feel more of a generalist and like doing multiple different things, then indie development is a really great choice. But if you want to be a specialist that really understands and hones in on a specific thing and really like becomes a master of a craft, then like AAA is a really great environment for that, because you only do that and you can only get better at that one thing. And then as you specialize, then you do things that you wouldn't necessarily ever imagine, which is really cool.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of students, it seems like indie's the dream now. But I think that's probably because when you're starting out, you want to have that kind of like control.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I haven't been in an indie studio before, but I think just echoing what Abbie said, it is a good way to, you know, get used to like lots of different roles. And I have heard like a lot of folks who have been in AAA for like 10, 20 years will eventually go to indie just because it's something so different. And I think, you know, there's a lot of really passionate projects out there that have come from indie studios. So it might be something that I'd be interested in like down the line, yeah.
My prediction for the future of the industry is, just to get deep for a minute, because obviously we've seen the layoffs and a lot of, there was a lot of money pouring in, and now it's kind of dried up, the funding has gone. I think we're seeing a move towards, we've reached like peak massive game studio, and I think we'll see a contraction, and it'll be smaller, more nimble teams working on smaller projects that take a little bit less time. So I think indie is going to become, I think that kind of in between independent studios, but they're kind of like the double A, kind of area, I think is going to be a sweet spot. And I think you're seeing people now wanting to get into that. Obviously, the problem is there's not a lot of money to start people to start studios, but I think it's going to be really important that people understand how to be very efficient and do more with smaller teams. And yeah, just have a kind of indie mindset. Like
Expedition 33 seems to have had like a massive impact where people are suddenly all like, and I suppose it makes sense for the publishers to look at that and be all like, hey, they spent a lot less money than we did, and they seem to have made a lot of money.
I think that Expedition 33 is a really great example of you can do anything, because I went to Unreal Fest last year and I went to the talk about how they made Expedition 33, and one of the prevalent things that I really took away from that talk was that 95% of that game was done in Unreal blueprinting, which is a humongous amount of game just without any coding experience. And I feel like that's the beauty of the Unreal Engine as well, is that you don't have to be super technically minded to be able to create whatever you can dream of. And you should think about it and be inspired by projects like that, because they made it and it's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that, and now every single time we're doing blueprints, I'm going to be all like, they made Expedition 33. They made Expedition 33 with this tool, it's an industry standard. Because I'm always saying it's an industry standard tool, but then and I know that there are games that have been built with blueprints, but like, you know, it's nice to have an example. I've just been told it was like nearly the end, so we've got one more question. Do you guys have any thoughts on game preservation? Because I know that's like a big topic. They've mentioned Stop Killing Games in the question, which is it's like an online campaign to preserve games and stop them shutting down online games and stuff. Do you think about that when you're working on things, like whether the stuff that you're working on will survive and be available and stuff?
I think about it all the time. As a person that collects retro video games, like I love being able to pick up a game off the shelf and be able to play it. And I think of games like HITMAN, which have that online component, and I think, well, one day, what is going to happen to it? But I also know that people on the internet are really smart, smarter than me, and they will be able to compile the whole game as it would have shipped. Like they would have, they have the disc version, but they can also compile all the patches, and there'll be somewhere, some super clever person will just be able to make it available for everyone, and the people that are dedicated to it will continue to curate that library of everything. But yeah, I'm with you. I really believe in like games should be on cartridge and on disc, and you should just be able to play them and enjoy them forever. Even if the unpatched version of the game, like you can't patch it ever again, I want that thing on the disc to at least, you can complete it from start to finish, because it's really important. And like, I'm playing games from 30 years ago and I want that for the next generation of gamers as well.
Totally agree. Like it's, games is an art form, and it's incomprehensible if we just let it vanish, especially the earlier pioneering games that led to where we are now. So yes, agree, it's a really important thing, and I'm so glad there are people spending their time and effort trying to make it happen. I also think we should have stronger regulation, which I know is something people are probably looking at right now, in terms of companies should not be able to shut down servers within X amount of years. Like, you should have to support your game. Like, you can't just give up on it instantly when there are people still playing. I think we should make that a thing.
Trying to remember some of the details, because you mentioned about regulations and stuff, and I know there was a case semi-recently with Bungie and Destiny where I think they removed one of the DLCs. I'm not really familiar with Destiny 2, but they removed something, and then I know there was a whole case about it, and should you be able to do that? Like, if someone's paid for that content, should you be able to then remove it and it'd be a limited time thing? But yeah, I think it's really important, and you know, I think even within like features in the game, if you need to, you know, access like a DLC, but like you can't do that anymore, you need to go to a website and get a code to be able to get this item, and you can't do that, and then that blocks you from like a piece of content. That sucks, and I think it's something we should really pivot away from. And yeah, just with like cartridges and stuff as well, like there's a whole Nintendo thing where like you can't get anything, and it's really expensive to get a lot of these older games, but like they're not kind of porting them anymore, and yeah, it's a big topic.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who does play Destiny, you're in a great position in not playing Destiny.
I played for like a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, they took all the things I paid for. In fairness, I'm kind of grateful, because it's what caused me to be all like, I'm not going to play Destiny anymore. I'm done with this. And actually, now I'm kind of happy about that. I think we're probably coming up to about the end of the time that we've got. So thank you so much, all of you, for coming in. It's been great. I know it's been a bit freewheeling and
been really good.
non-directional, but like, yeah, it's really I think what's really nice is just for you to get a chance to talk about whatever you guys are interested in, and for the students to hear and see people who are in the industry and what they believe in and what's making them happy and stuff. It's really positive. It's so nice that Dambuster's willing to do this, but also that it's a place where like we've got people who are happy about working. I feel like we're not getting enough. Yes, it's nice working in the games industry stories. But yeah, Ricky, stop doing things with the teleprompter. Okay, so I don't know how to end this. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. So I'm going to say thanks for tuning in and watching, everybody. And Richard Johnson's next. He's going to, what's he doing, Rob? Rob doesn't know. Richard Johnson's up next on the stream doing something. Something that I'm sure will be very interesting and fun to watch. And thank you to all of the guests today. It was really great to have you here. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got, Rob.
Bye. Thanks
So
for having
long.
us.